So this is a series of classes that I call Meditation Basics, because kind of that's what it's about. And this particular 3-class series that I'm doing here, I'm calling Journey to Stillness, because we're talking about specific ways to work with the mind, the nature of the mind in a scientific way, as well as in an emotional way and in a meditative way, to learn how to bring the mind to a state of peace and stillness. So that's kind of the particular focus of these classes. So rather than doing too much talking in the beginning, I'd like for us just to join together in an experience of meditation so that we can kind of get a taste of what it is, because I've found from week to week some people haven't meditated before, some people have had practices for quite a long time, but at least if we can all do it together now, then we've got some common ground to have a discussion about afterwards. Plus it's fun. So, to review the basic meditation posture, back straight, everything else relaxed. So whether you're sitting on a chair or whether you're sitting on the ground, you want to think about, your feet and your legs and your hips as feeling very grounded and relaxed, very stable. And then from there, there's a sense of energy lifting up so that the spine is light and straight. And the head is right on top of the spine. Sometimes they say like an apple balanced on a stack of gold coins. So you think of your vertebrae, chunk, 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 boom, the little apple on top, which has your chin level with the ground, your shoulders level, hands just nice and relaxed, no need to take any fancy mudras. And your face is relaxed, eyes softly closed, jaw is relaxed, tongue is in a natural position. And take a nice breath in, and as you exhale, just let the shoulders fall away from the ears. Feeling any kind of held tension drop out of the shoulders, the arms, the hands. Take another deep breath in, and as you exhale, just let any tension fall out of the face, the jaw, the scalp. We hold so much there. One more deep breath in, and as you exhale, just consciously relax the hips, feeling any tension flow out of the legs, the feet. And then let your breath be quiet and even. No need to make it particularly deep, just see where it is today. Allow the thoughts to relax as you tune in to just what's going on in this present moment. In this moment, you're sitting, you're in your body, you're breathing, you're in this room. And find something pleasant about where you're sitting now. Maybe it's that golden glow of the sunlight coming in you can see through your eyelids. Maybe it's the nice temperature of the air or the comfort of your new meditation cushion. Allow those good feelings to seep into your mind. And now identify something that feels good in your body. So often when we sit down to meditate, we focus on that one toe that's falling asleep, instead of the whole rest of the arms and legs that feel fine. So find a place in your body that feels comfortable and relaxed, and focus on that for a moment. Be aware as well of the goodness of this unique opportunity to be in a room filled with people who are interested in learning how to be happier, calmer, kinder to the people in their lives. And that us, this group of people, we're sitting in a space that has provided all these nice cushions and chairs, a beautiful sunny room where we can be comfortable. Let all those levels of goodness and gratitude fill your mind. And now for a few moments, just be fully present with whatever sounds, background thoughts, bodily sensations are here with you now. The sounds of other people in the room or the space, no need to push them away, just let them be there at the edge of your mind. The feelings, good and bad, in your body, the movements of your breath. Try to expand your awareness to allow it all to be there. This is what it feels like not to do, but simply to be. And now bring your attention more directly into your body. Allow your mind to roam around and discover all the different sensations that are present in your body from moment to moment, while at the same time keeping a soft awareness of the space you're in and an acceptance of the sounds, smells, and feelings. Sensations of coolness on the palms or warmth. Sensation of pressure in the feet. Little twinges or itches. Whatever's going on in your body, just be a compassionate and loving witness to it as you breathe. And finally, draw your attention in, like focusing a lens to just the area at the edge of your nostrils or your upper lip where you can feel air moving in and out of your body. All the while keeping an awareness of the rest of your body and an awareness of the room. Drink in those sensations of coolness, warmth, movement. This is what it feels like to be in my body, breathing in this present moment. Try to stay with those sensations for just 5 more breaths. And slowly expand your awareness to include your entire body. And even wider to include the entire room. Open, spacious awareness. And gradually start making some small movements with your body to ground yourself, wiggling your fingers and toes or shrugging your shoulders, deepening and lengthening your breath. And when you're ready, you can open your eyes. So I've talked to a number of you about meditation, but I know there's different levels of experience and different practices in the room, which is so beautiful. And I wanted to see if, for those of you who are new, if you wanted to share anything about whether you've meditated before or your experience with it.
Sure.
Yeah?
I did transcendental meditation training, I guess. I'm not sure what the proper term would be, but worked with a woman for a year, and so I've been doing that for about a year and a half. And I do the global sadhanas that Spirit Voyage does. I don't know if you know those. I work with kirtan artists of different kinds, and there's an online group called Spirit Voyage, and they do these global sadhanas for 40 days. And so I've kind of shifted from TM, which has not, it's hard to not assess meditation, but it hasn't been what I was hoping it would be for me, and I've never felt successful with it. So I started doing things with mudras and chants and integrating that into meditation.
And you're a dancer, so sometimes it's about finding a practice that fits our natural inclinations. I've known a lot of yogis who have had trouble sitting down and being totally still in meditation because they're so used to expressing themselves with their bodies. Sometimes it's nice to work against the grain, but also sometimes you get that real juice in your practice when you're doing something that you enjoy, that kind of works with you. Mm-hmm. We're going to be talking about good and bad meditation, success and failure today, actually, so that's a good lead-in, because, it's hard not to assess.
Yes.
Anyone else? Did anyone try meditation between last week and this week? Who was here last week? Terrence?
I like to keep my eye contact. I'm guilty here listening.
I didn't really run a treadmill, going. So I started going down the gym at the house, moving my son's weights around. So I used to lift my weights and stuff. I said, I need to come on. So I take my mat and start to lift over and put the camera on. But finally, I just one at a time, and I start with prayer. And that just takes me to the space where I want to be. I can't stop fidgeting because I haven't hit this going. But normally, it makes me really slow down. It's a great insight to do. It's helped a lot.
Yeah. Yeah, and as we talked about the first week, the definition of meditation is so broad. It includes the contemplative traditions, the prayer traditions, the stilling the mind traditions, the Rococo visualization traditions, ones that involve singing or movement or meditating while listening to music. And so it's nice that we can be in a situation, where we all have different experiences, we've all tried different things, and we can keep that more open, less dogmatic definition of meditation, so that when we talk about meditation to other people, it's not like, well, meditation is only watching your breath, or, it is only saying mantras, because that shuts down the ability for people to find their own paths, right? So I would encourage us to all learn from each other about all the different things that meditation can be, so that we can be more, open and compassionate advocates for it in the world. I found myself that after studying in the Tibetan Buddhist tradition for a number of years, just in the last year, we've been working with a teacher who's more in the Vipassana tradition. And I had a lot of pushback at the beginning of being like, just watching my breath, that's hardly doing anything, And yet, through time and through daily practice, so much has opened up through making a shift. And so in these classes, I'm really happy to be able to offer more of a Vipassana-style meditation in the beginning, and a little more of a Tibetan Buddhist-style meditation later, that has an object that's more of a visualization than the breath, because I know both of those have been really beneficial to me in different times in my practice. So in these classes, which are supposed to be practical how-tos for how to meditate, we talk a lot about the how of meditation, but I always like to start with the kind of the what and the why. So that was a little bit about the what. Just getting an idea of what is meditation is a good place to start every week, especially since there's so many definitions. And then the why. I really feel like if we don't keep going back to, in our own practices, when we get together with our spiritual friends, when we meet for a class, the benefits of meditation, then the idea of why we're practicing can so easily start to slip away. So, the first week we talked about a lot of physical benefits. So primarily through the reduction of the stress hormone cortisol, meditation has been shown to have really positive physical benefits, decreasing the risk of heart disease, gastrointestinal disorders, allowing the brain to stay supple into later age. But there's also all these emotional and relational benefits to a meditation practice, and I think those are the ones that kind of open our hearts a little more than just knowing, like, oh, my blood pressure is going to go down, right? So we can think about meditation as, by examining our own mind, we're both able to still and slow the mind to become calmer, and we also become more self-aware. We get to know ourselves a little better, which is important. Also, by knowing our mind better, we're able to be less reactive to the world, because we can kind of see stuff coming. We put that little gap between something that happens and our instinctive reaction, which is not always the most helpful one in the long term, to say, how does the person that I really want to be want to react to this? Not how does that initially annoyed or frustrated person want to have a knee-jerk reaction that might have really negative consequences in this relationship in the future. And then there's also the idea of using meditation to develop more of the qualities in ourselves that we choose to meditate on. So if we do a lot of gratitude meditations, like we did a little bit at the beginning today, we're actually changing our mind, we're rewiring our brain to be more inclined to find gratitude, not just on the meditation cushion, but all day. And so each of us may have a specific quality or something specific that we're more drawn to. Maybe you feel like gratitude, you've got that covered. But real compassion, then you might choose to do a compassion meditation for several weeks or months, or go back to it over the course of years, and work on allowing the pathways that you take your mind down in meditation to become the pathways that you go down in your life and in your relationships. And neuroscience has proven that meditation can have that effect of rewiring the brain. And so all of this, all three of these actually, allow us to be kinder to others and more compassionate to others, because we know ourselves. We become compassionate with ourselves. We know what's going on in here. And then we can actually look out into the world and have genuine responses to other people. And if they snap at us, we can say, oh, I know what that feels like, because I've seen what my mind does when I want to snap at someone. So how do we do this? Is this like meditation basics, October 13th, we're going to all, stand up out of that first meditation and immediately be able to control our mind? Are we going to walk out this door and immediately be the compassionate, grateful person that we wanted to be when we walked in? But, sometimes there's that concept that meditation is something that is a piece of information. Like, oh, once I get the 3 steps of how to meditate, then I can meditate. But it's a skill, it's a practice. As anyone who's practiced for, a year, a couple of years will find out, it's a journey. And one of the Tibetan words for meditation, Tibetan has, it's sort of like they say, how about Eskimos having 100 words for snow? Well, Tibetan has that many words for meditation. I actually looked it up. The Inuit language only has 4 words for snow, but still, let's just say if we wanted to, move into that cultural meme, we would say, yeah, like how many words for snow the Eskimos have, the Tibetan and Sanskrit languages have for meditation. Because as a culture, they've invested so much energy into finding out all these different states of mind. But one kind of overarching word for meditation is gom, G-O-M. And a meditation house is often called a gompa, the place where you sit and do your gom. So what does gom mean? It has the sense of accustoming yourself to something. So it doesn't mean, sit down and stop your thoughts. It doesn't mean control your mind. It doesn't mean, one shot and you've got it. It's you're gradually accustoming yourself to whatever it is you choose to meditate on. And I think that's for me, it's a really helpful way to think about it, because it gives the idea of a progression over time. And then I can be a little less hard on myself for not getting it in the first day, the first week, the first year. So this can be anything from accustoming ourselves to actually paying attention to reality. Like we did in that meditation first off. We're like, okay, this is what it's like to just be here. And how often do we skip that over for either doing something physically or constantly doing stuff in our mind, even if we're physically staying in one spot? So we're accustoming ourselves to actually take note of the positive things that are around us. Notice pleasant sensations in our body instead of just the painful ones. So that's a gradual process that then starts to spill out into our day. And then, as I was saying with these meditations on gratitude or compassion, we're accustoming ourselves to having those kind of thoughts in our mind. it's really not much more time and effort and input of energy than we would need to learn how to play the piano. We don't expect to be able to play our favorite, Mozart or Billy Joel or Taylor Swift song the minute that we sit down at the piano. We would give ourselves time to learn the skills. We'd give ourselves time to practice. And somehow meditation doesn't always get that chance. It's like, oh, I tried it once and I was so bad at it. Right? I uniquely am just not able to meditate. It's just something with the way my mind works. So I tried it though, once. So, we wouldn't say that if we started, we'd say, okay, well, first I'm going to be able to maybe play Heart and Soul after the first couple of weeks, but I'm not going to be playing the Moonlight Sonata. So, the thing that I find really comforting is when I look at the traditional texts on meditation from the yoga and Buddhist traditions, they're having the same problems that I'm having. Everybody goes through these stages of meditation in this process of becoming more proficient, this process of dropping into that sweet space faster, being able to stay there longer. It's not like there were some people 700 years ago in Tibet that were automatically good at meditating, and then there's us sitting here in the West today who are automatically bad at it. We all have these human minds, we all have these human natures, these sort of twitchy, uncomfortable bodies, these, unresolved emotions, right? That's all the material that we sit down on the cushion with. And it's not that one of us is going to sit down and not have all of that to deal with and automatically be good at meditation, So I find all of this very encouraging. I mean, in a way, it's kind of discouraging because it's like, oh, darn, I was hoping I could sit down and it would be easy the first day. But over the long run, it's nice to be able to go back to and say, well, if this person who wrote all these amazing books on meditation or on compassion or on Buddhism can talk about meditation in this way that you can tell they've been through this same process, can give these kind of advices, can talk about how hard it is to start a practice, then they must have gone through this too, and it's not so unusual that I would have a little bit of forward, a little bit of back in my own practice. So one of the main things that we're trying to habituate our mind to in meditation is to stay, sit, stay, right? We're actually, there's this great book called A Path with Heart by Jack Kornfield, and one of his chapters is called Training the Puppy, as, of the mind. And so no matter what your meditation tradition, whether it's prayer, whether it's the Islamic practice of emotionally connecting with the names of God, whether it's visualization, whether it's the breath, whether it's listening to music, in whatever you're, drawn to, you still need that skill of putting the mind where you feel it would be valuable, even though for all of us it may be different, what we've chosen, but to put the mind there. And then when it wanders off, to put it back. My friend Julian says it's like having a box full of little chickens, and your thoughts are wandering away, like these little Easter chicks, and then you're picking them up and you're putting them back in the box, just that gently. So why is it natural that the mind would wander? I mean, this is something that we all deal with. And for me, it's been helpful. I've been really, really geeking out on neuroscience lately because I've found all of these great books and texts that take into account especially the last 15 years of brain research, and they're able to see what the meditators have found out experientially and have written about in their texts. So you can sort of balance and weigh these two things together and find that there's a lot of confluence. So one of the reasons that the mind wanders is because it feels like it needs to scan for danger. And this is something that we talked about last week. So especially when you hear a loud noise and the brain goes, what was that? Somebody coming in, is someone going to disturb me? Why did those brakes screech out on the road, right? Then that's the mind making sure that as you sit here in a vulnerable position with your eyes closed, that there isn't going to be something that's going to come in and try to hurt you. So essentially that's a healthy function of the mind. But it's a little bit overactive because when we are sitting in a quiet room in our home after having told our whole family, okay, mommy's going to meditate, don't open the door for half an hour, we're in a safe spot. We don't necessarily need to be putting all those resources to checking for outside sounds. Same with the body. No, my teacher Lam Root says nobody's ever lost a leg through having it fall asleep during meditation. But still, when we feel something going wrong with our body, the mind goes there. Oh no, my knee. What's going on with my knee? Should I move it? Is there a better position? Is this going to be lasting damage from this 5-minute meditation? And that's part of the function of the mind that is at times really useful, like when we're driving, we need that scanning for danger brain. But we have to be able to recognize that and sort of calm it down while we meditate, because we want all of that power and energy and resources to be directed towards meditation. We're sort of trying to pull our resources inward at that point. And that's one reason why, and this is something we covered last week, it's okay to keep that sense of peripheral awareness, just knowing where you are in the room, acknowledging that there's outside sounds, at the same time as you have a very close focus. It's like peripheral vision for the mind. Just, allowing there to be a broad sense of location so that sounds can come and go without feeling threatened by them. And if you want to know more about that, I would definitely suggest watching the class from last week, because we went into that in detail. Then the other reason why the mind wanders, avoiding pain and anything else that we would probably want to do? Seeking pleasure. So the mind wants to go where stuff is interesting. Again, this is very helpful, right? So, if you're at work and you're sitting in a conference room and someone brings in a tray of Danishes, you want to notice that, because you've got to get to those Danishes, right? So there's a good reason. It's not, bad mind, you shouldn't have wandered. The mind is doing what we've always wanted it to do at those moments. So we can be kind, right? We can be understanding with our own minds. And realistically, after the first couple of minutes, maybe, after the first couple of years, maybe the breath is not going to be that fascinating. I mean, really. It's so, and as you get deeper and deeper into your focus, you can find all these really, compelling and beautiful qualities of the breath. But realistically, just sort of taking an objective standpoint, someone just sitting down to meditate, the breath is going to get boring after a little while, and the mind is going to want to find something more interesting. So, that can be seen when we start focusing on, ooh, I'm hungry, and what kind of food am I going to get after meditation? Or, what am I going to do later? Or, ooh, what was that fun thing that I did? This idea of going to the past and the future to look for something a little more interesting. Or it can also be found in the mind just wanting to be stimulated, even if it's not particularly good. So if you start replaying a conversation that you had with someone and how you should have said that thing back to them, and in a way that's a perverse way of the mind seeking pleasure, because it's really just saying, let's just spin up those emotions and make a really big deal because we like to be busy. We are a brain that exists in a multitasking world where we're constantly rewarded for our ability to do as much multitasking as possible. And and the mind wants to go and do something. Here we are sitting still. Let's make good use of that time by planning out the next 3 years, right? Yeah, right? I'm a big planner, so for me, it's much less about rehashing angry conversations and much more about just making big, grandiose plans for some big thing I'm going to do in the future, So, in this sense that the mind, as far as the mind is aware, it's supposed to scan for danger. It's supposed to look for interesting things. Then we can enter into meditation with a little more of a sense of kindness and friendliness, and a little less of, I'm supposed to get this right and succeed at it, especially the first time that I tried it, right? In one way, and the spiritual life in whatever tradition, is always full of paradox. But in one way, meditation is very unnatural, in that you're asking your mind to do something that is not what you usually ask it to do. It's going against your habits. And that's an important way to think when you need to have more compassion for yourself. You're saying, well, we're doing something different. We're trying to find a different kind of state. We're going somewhere new. We're transforming ourselves. We're purifying our old instincts and becoming, this enlightened being, or this being who's reached happiness. So that can be very useful. Another way to look at it, which is equally true and perfectly contradictory, is that meditation is the most natural thing in the world. That at the base of our being, there is always the capacity for balance and peace. And meditation is simply letting all those distractions fall away so that we can tap into it. The nervous system can either be, overly sleepy or overly agitated, but it always has the capacity to be regulated and balanced. That's always been there with us. And meditation is a way of tapping into that. And in that way, it can be helpful because you can think about meditation in that sweet state, even if we only drop into it for a couple of minutes at a time, or a couple of seconds, as being returning to our natural state, to our sense of balance and goodness, that is more natural to us than all of the anxiety and restlessness and sleepiness and fogginess. So that can be a really helpful way to look at it too. I want to read the Jack Kornfield. Always remember that in training a puppy, we want to end up with the puppy as our friend. In the same way, we must practice seeing our mind and body as friend. Even its wanderings can be included in our meditation with a friendly interest and curiosity. Right away we can notice how it moves. The mind produces waves. Our breath is a wave. The sensations of our body are a wave. We don't have to fight the waves. We can simply acknowledge, surf's up. Here's the wave of memories from 3 years old. Here's the planning wave. Here's the time to reconnect with the wave of breath. It takes a gentleness and a kind-hearted understanding to deepen the art of concentration. The attitude or spirit with which we do our meditation helps us perhaps more than any other aspect. What is called for is a sense of perseverance and dedication combined with a basic friendliness. We do not want the training of our puppy to become too serious a matter. Our task is to train the puppy to become our lifelong friend. So, for me, when I first started meditating, and for many years, probably still ongoing, but better now, this inner critic and perfectionist and desire to do things right and to succeed at things, in the very beginning it was probably helpful because it helped me sit down on days when I didn't feel like it. Because it was like, no, you're a meditator now, you're going to do this, Puritan work ethic, get on that cushion. But over time, it worked against my practice because it made meditation less enjoyable for me. Sometimes, in looking at these two functions of the mind, sometimes I would avoid meditation because I wanted to do something more enjoyable, like take a nap or sleep in or have a big meal that would then make me too sleepy to meditate afterwards or read a book. But more often I would avoid meditation, and still do from time to time, if I felt that the circumstances weren't right for me to have a good meditation. Like I think, I'm just too, worried about this project. I need to finish it so that I don't worry about it during my meditation. Or I didn't get enough sleep. I'm just going to fall asleep. It's not even worth trying. Or, I've just eaten a meal. Now wouldn't be the right time. Or I'm too hungry. Now wouldn't be the right time, right? You're familiar with any of these? Yeah. So for me now, looking at this kinder, more sort of positive reinforcement model that I'm getting from Jack Kornfield and from our current meditation teacher, I realized that all of that negative mental talk was making me feel like I'd rather not try to meditate if it was going to be this constant process of self-criticism and you're not doing it right and you're not having a good meditation. That I only wanted to sit down when I knew I was going to have a really good shot of success. And really the best way to have success is to do it every day, whether it's, you know, distracted, sleepy, or, you know, really sweet and balanced. And so I was actually taking away from my ability to have a good meditation by trying to only meditate when I thought I'd have a good meditation. I don't know, this is like something that I've been really processing during the last like 6 months. I'm like, oh, is that why I avoid meditation? So, you know, what could a good meditation versus a bad meditation be? You know, I mean, honestly, in my experience, for me, the only bad meditation is the meditation that I don't do. It's the meditation that I avoid because I think it's not going to be a good meditation. Seriously. Because if you know the basic skills of meditation, place your mind, relax your body, breathe, bring it back, catch it, bring it back, catch it, bring it back. You can do that all day, and it's still a good meditation because you're exercising the muscle of meditation, which is getting to know your mind and what it does, and how to gently guide it where you want it. So, you know, if you sit down for half an hour and 50 times you totally forget to think about the breath and start thinking about your shopping list or what you're going to have for lunch, you know, is that a bad meditation? Well, honestly, I think a lot of us would probably label it that. I would probably label it that a lot of days, and I think that that's the sort of, there's maybe a, you know, a feeling that when that happens, of saying, well, I'm just not good at meditation, so I should stop trying. But actually, if 50 times your mind wanders away, and 50 times you notice, after however long, and you gently bring it back, then that's a good meditation, actually, you know? I think that, you know, giving up or spending the time, you know, indulging in a half-hour-long train of thought without making any effort to come back is not necessarily helping the practice, but beyond that, any effort that we can make to sit down and work with what the mind is doing in a compassionate way is actually really positive. And it's taken me a long time to come to that, and it's definitely not, it's still not ideal, but it's something that I feel really compelled to teach in all of my meditation classes now, because I feel like it's more helpful to get it early on than to go for a long time with indulging that same judgmental, critical voice that follows us around so much of our life, right? You know, or essentially just bringing what they call the samsaric mind, the suffering mind, into, you know, what might be our 30 minutes of peace that day. So, my friend Mira Kingsley said very beautifully that meditation is about being a loving and loyal witness to the mind. You know, we're not giving up on our mind. Oh, you didn't do it right today. Bad mind. We're staying loyal, right? We're being like the puppy to the puppy. I don't know, that's a long metaphor. So the idea is that when we bring the mind back, we're bringing it back in a kind way. And, you know, this is important as well because we're not actually, even if we decided, okay, negative reinforcement model, whenever my mind does something I don't want to do, I'm going to punish it so that it won't do that in the future. We don't notice when our mind wanders because otherwise it wouldn't have wandered. We notice when we catch it, and that's actually a good thing. So we don't want to put all these negative emotions on that moment of doing one of the primary skills of meditation, which is catching the mind and bringing it back. And when we infuse moments of mind with emotions, it forges really, really strong connections. You know, that emotional brain, the limbic system, not the prefrontal cortex, not the rational, think it all out, use words for everything mind, but that emotional mind is so powerful. And if we'll start doing all these weird sorts of avoidances and justifications for not meditating without even really realizing it because of the emotional quality of meditation feels bad, as opposed to finding ourselves really trying to make space for and really thinking in a positive way about meditation when we find that we're regularly having supportive and compassionate experiences in our meditations. So, it's working at retraining our instincts and how we think about it. So, what are we accustoming ourselves to? Gone, right? Are we accustoming ourselves for meditation to be an act of self-criticism, or are we accustoming ourselves to meditation to be just an act of discovery with good humor and patience, and all the things that we're trying to become, right, through meditating, It starts at home, right, with how we treat our own minds. I like to think, when I bring the mind back, I like to take a moment of having like a, it's good to be back. Like, just have like a moment of settling to say, like, well, isn't feeling, present in my body and taking nice deep breaths actually kind of feel better than thinking about my to-do list? In a way, it does feel good to be back. But sometimes we have to start cementing that, add words to it, add it, connect with something that feels good in your body when you come back, so you can really cement, yes, that process of bringing the mind back is something that feels good. In this place where I'm resting in peace, that's something that feels good as well. Any comments or thoughts about that? It kind of makes sense, right? I was geeking out on neuroscience to try to figure out so a lot of this comes from our teacher, Master Chuladasa's way of talking about working with the mind and about bringing it back. He talks about it as cultivating the right attitude. The idea of when you first start meditating, this is from one of his texts, when we first start meditating, you try to willfully force the mind into submission. Inevitably, it doesn't comply. When that happens, people tend to become discouraged and blame themselves. For the sake of making progress, it's best to drop this notion as soon as possible. So, I was saying, it's like if your partner brings you a bouquet of flowers, instead of going like, yes, this is very nice, thank you for the flowers, habituating that flowers are a really good thing. Instead, saying like, what are these for? You never bring me flowers. What, is the car in one piece? What's going on? What did you do, right? Which is more like the dialogue we have with our mind. Like, I recognize that I'm back, and that causes me to criticize myself for being gone, right? So implicitly we're saying, these flowers remind me that you never get me flowers, right? Instead of cementing the positivity of what's actually happened, that the flowers are being given to the girlfriend. Anyways, I don't know why I thought of that, FTD, yeah. So I wanted to give this idea a little more backup as well from two, really important sources. One, in an unspoken voice, How the Body Releases Trauma and Restores Goodness by Peter A. Levine, PhD. And one from this article in Fitness magazine that I was reading on break at work. Okay, so they actually agree on some of these things. So the idea, the deep idea of what's happening when we retrain our mind with positive reinforcement is that we're working on getting this sort of subconscious, feeling-based, emotion-based memory to help us keep the mind focused and bring it back, and not just relying on conscious thought to do it. Because conscious thought is what's wandering, right? So again, we don't notice when we leave the object because we've left the object, our mind is wandering. Our teacher breaks it up into the difference between first being distracted, but still kind of aware of the breath, then forgetting, so the breath has now disappeared, and then mind wandering, which could be several minutes long of a process where the brain goes on a little fantasy trip into some positive or negative realm that is not what you are meditating on. And then you have to take it and bring it back. So the feeling-based memory stores all experiences implicitly, like in the way they say it's like learning how to ride a bike. Even if you don't remember consciously exactly, you have this sort of muscle memory, this implicit memory. And then evaluates them from the emotional tone they evoke. So this is happening not in our conscious mind, but in our subconscious. Our mind is going, meditating. Do we like this or do we not like this? You know, wandering to think about what we're going to have for lunch. Do we like this or not like this? Recognizing that we're wandering so that we can be brought back. Do we like that or do we not like that? Well, that's going to depend on how harsh we've been when we've caught ourselves wandering before, versus how kind and supportive our experience of bringing our mind back has been. So before the conscious mind is even aware of it, our emotional brains are figuring out how our meditation practice is actually going to go. So this type of involuntary memory grabs our attention and continuously motivates us through emotional signals well after this sort of declarative voluntary laundry list memory is completely forgotten or is not paying attention. In contrast to volitional memory, emotional memory often operates outside the range of our conscious awareness. So in this technique that my meditation teacher is telling me, and in this resource from a psychologist and neuroscientist, we're finding these parallels of what's happening, that meditation is not just working with the conscious mind, but it's working with the subconscious mind as well. If you're working, walking around with a sense that there's really good emotional qualities associated with being present, being aware of your own body and your breath, being in the moment instead of in fantasy land, then that's something that's not just informing meditation, it's informing all day. So, how to put this theory into effect? Let's look at Fitness Magazine. So we see this already with, they were talking about like weight loss and fitness strategies and stuff. But you know how they say like, okay, sure, you know that eating that salad instead of that donut is going to reduce your risk of heart disease, decrease the fats in your blood, make you do all these health benefit things. Okay, but when the donut's actually in front of you, what's going to get you to the salad is some sort of emotional connection. So they say imagine yourself, walking into a party wearing that sexy dress that you can't fit into, or just taking this to a totally different sphere from meditation, because this is something we've maybe spent a little more time on, unfortunately, in our culture, probably weight loss and fitness, or doing that yoga pose. For me, the idea of, going to the second half of my yoga teacher training and being able to, keep up with the core work or do a headstand, that feeling of what it would feel like to be with that group, and we're all doing it together, is stronger than the idea of some benefits of being in headstand, like it improves my circulation or decreases swelling in my ankles or something. So already we're working with this idea of this, the emotional payoffs are guiding our conscious actions. Also this woman in Fitness Magazine was saying, well, when I go to the gym, I get myself a nice Starbucks latte afterwards, and when I don't go to the gym, I have to drink yesterday's coffee heated up in the microwave. Right? So she's setting up a circumstance where there's pleasure associated with working out. Now, since the pleasure can't always be found on the weight machine or whatever, she's putting something else in there to associate. So when she wakes up in the morning, her brain goes, we like coffee. Oh, we got to go work out, and then we'll have coffee, right? So, sometimes this is something that we can access in our meditation practice as well, of like, maybe watching the breath is not particularly fascinating today, but the idea of sitting in a room without interruption, being able to just be still and quiet, is something that keeps you going back to the cushion. Or maybe it's that feeling that you get afterwards when you get up. Or maybe it's the way that you felt like it improved your patience with your grandchildren or your toddlers or whatever. So when we associate these really deep emotional positive things with meditation, those are what are going to kick in when the conscious mind that says, it's important that you get out of bed half an hour earlier today because meditation increases the level of brain plasticity when you're 80 or something. That voice may not have a lot of impact at that moment when you're trying to get out of bed. So just a little bit of backup, It's we want to associate meditation and the continual process of bringing the mind back to the object with these positive emotions so that it becomes, in that basic level of the mind, an attraction rather than an aversion. And both, psychology, neuroscience, and this is really big in Buddhism, put those two states as kind of like the basic tipping points of every experience. Do we have some level of attraction to it, or do we have some level of avoidance or aversion to it? And that's really, that deep level of programming is going to determine, how it feels to be sitting on the meditation cushion, which is going to allow you to have all these other benefits. So one of the ways that we do this, as well as like the second meditation last week, and the second meditation that we did today, we're going to pick really juicy, yummy, positive objects that you can try meditating with instead of the breath on those days when the breath is not really, inspiring you to get out of bed in the morning. So sometimes it can help to have a kind of meditation that you really enjoy, So again, getting down to, what you're doing with chanting and with movement. Do you find that you're more eager to get to that practice than you were for the TM? Mm-hmm. So something that works with you, And you really like the meditation practice that we're doing right now, right? Do you find you're more... Sometimes. Well, you put on a good show because he has a beautiful regularity in his practice that's very inspiring to me. And that's another thing as well, is the sense of community, right? So if we go back to our important resource in Fitness Magazine, if we have something like Curves or Weight Watchers or, those are about having emotional support for reaching your fitness goals, right? So somebody has tapped into that psychological concept and said, you will be more successful knowing that you have this kind of support in a community. Super huge in yoga and Buddhism, the idea of Sangha in Buddhism. The fact that you have some sort of community, whether it's a church community, a yoga studio, a meditation class, or people, that you live in the same building with that you can meditate with, that you're going to get that positive emotional support for doing your practice. And that's why it's great to have, some sort of, some person in your life that you can talk about it with a little bit, even if they're not meditating, that will at least go, hey, how was your meditation this week? And know that you're going to get this really nice, positive thing if you're able to say great. And if you say, well, I didn't do it again, you're going to have to say that in front of the whole class. I'm picking on you because I know you can handle it. So for our final meditation, we're going to pick a visualization that we particularly individually connect with, that allows us to contact strong feelings of goodness and joy, and then work with the process of bringing the mind back, and see how that works. And before we do that meditation, I want to give everyone a stretch water bathroom break, but I wanted to see if people had questions or comments as well. Yeah?
One thing that struck me when you were talking about unconscious thoughts, like not necessarily thinking about a list of to-dos, but for people like me that have sort of a generalized anxiety sometimes, like it's just a vague feeling like, ooh, this isn't, things aren't going right, or something might happen, and it's actually a valuable training process to let the mind go there, pull it back, because then I can do that when I'm not meditating. It trains me to not go there and indulge in this kind of anxious feeling that really isn't helping me at all, because I'm not solving any problem. I'm just indulging in this kind of negative emotion. So.
Yeah, that's great. That's a beautiful practice.
In shamanic meditation, where we meditated to drumming, finding the rhythm to let go of the outside world and focus just on one thing was a way to release a lot of the ego that you work with. And a lot of meditation, in my experience, has been how you address and are kind to yourself and let go of the ego.
Yeah, I think the idea of being absorbed in something and letting the self rest, it's similar because you're still there. There is an aspect of you that is there, you know, in relation to the music. But what's not there is that planning, distracting, anxious, chattering mind that we associate with our ego that's always, you know, trying to criticize us or define us or make a plan. And instead it's just, it can be similar with dance as well, right? You lose yourself in movement, or with yoga. The idea of, in a way, you're losing yourself. In a way, you're more fully yourself than when, because you're in your body and you're in your momentary experience instead of in some fantasy about reality.
I started putting something together based on what you shared, but it was also confounding to me, which is I always meditate better in a group than alone. And even with TM, checks, I'm using this so much. For TM is the least bells and whistles of any meditation I've ever tried. It's just sitting in a chair and hearing your mantra over and over. And I would suffer a lot when I did the meditation on my own, and my mind would do the to-do list, and it just constantly was engaged. But it was almost as if every time I meditated, my mind was like, guys, she's meditating! We were waiting to think all day! Like, it's time to think about this, think about that, plan this, I got. It was insane. It was like a little nursery school in my head, and I'd be going, should I meditate? But the interesting thing is every time we have a check and the group would come together, I would fall into this deep meditation. I mean, there still were lots of inexplicable visions and things that would pop in, but it wasn't conscious thought. And even today, just sitting with you all, it's like there's this human blanket of that. And what started to click, because I never understood why that would be, but I wonder if it is that search for safety. And when you have people surrounding you, you're just going to go, he's going to get knocked off first. He's closest to the door. Now, it's just there's something about an energy, or even
and also that positive
sound.
support that you're with people who are also committed to meditation helps you feel more committed in that moment to meditation.
I guess it doesn't even feel that conscious. It just feels, and I, in hearing you talk about the mind's roles, I wonder if it is that the mind knows, oh, we're in a group of people, so we're safe. And we can let go of that alert. We better stay ready to target and things.
Yeah, hypervigilant, they call that. Yeah. It's, our teacher, Master Chuladas, says that in one of his retreats, they were talking about the mind. Like, we think about the mind as one thing, but the mind is actually like a contentious board of directors that that everybody's just trying to get together to make one decision. But this one wants to go over here, and this one wants to check out this, and so it really it's kind of more accurate to think of the mind as being this sort of variety of different aspects and voices and levels and emotions, and less realistic to think, well, this is the one mind. I mean, even if I think about I'm watching my thoughts, well, already we've got two levels of perspective there. And so what you said about, nursery school, they do talk about there being one aspect of mind that's like the kindergarten teacher. It's this as it being like, okay, that's very nice, but come back here. Oh yeah, that's very sweet, honey, but come back here. And oh no, don't do that. Come back here. It's like the chickens in the box, or the sense of which I love this quote from Pema Chodron. She says, lead the mind back to the breath like leading a small child by the hand. You know, so how we manage that classroom of unruly nursery school kids is like going to really change, I think, how we feel about meditation.
My nurses will teach you to get fired. And yes, that is a better thing to do.
It's actually hopefully to shine light on the aspect of meditation that you just talked about orbit. Yeah, before we actually met, something called smile orbit. And I was like, no, it's still beneficial to reach your orbit, but again, it's also creating that sense of happiness with the doing meditation itself.
Yeah, it's a little bit creepy how strongly the meditations that I have been given over the last 5 or 6 years, when I look at this research that I'm getting now, I see how it's hitting so many of those points of working with both the conscious and subconscious mind in order to, bring me to happiness. So it's a good creepy, but but just to say, like, it's amazing how through this internal study, the decades and centuries and millennia of people meditating have come to this deep understanding of how the mind works, even if it's not written down as in, like, well, the amygdala does this and then the prefrontal cortex does that. But when you look at it in those terms, you can see how some of the meditations that have really lasted and endured throughout traditions have these qualities that work with different, like we were talking about, uniting both hemispheres of the brain, and you both keep a broad awareness and a concentrated focus at the same time. Like all these things that make sense. So I find it very encouraging. Okay, ready to do meditation? So, is everybody comfortable? So I'm going to spend a good 15 minutes on this one because I want, this is a meditation that, in a way, it's nice to do as a guided meditation. But really, where the rubber hits the road when it comes to working with this function of noticing when your mind has wandered and brought it back, that's something that we all kind of have to do on our own. Because at any given moment, I might say, and notice if your mind has wandered. Well, maybe it has or maybe it hasn't. But, either way. But really, it's about when you're sitting there meditating on your own at home, when do you notice that your mind has wandered? And then what do you do about it? So I'll be giving you guys some suggestions, but this is a really good one to do, not as a guided meditation, but in your own mind, getting to know your own mind and your own mental processes. Which isn't to say that it's not going to be really fun to do it together still. Okay, so take a deep breath, bring the shoulders up to the ears, squeeze, 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 and relax again. And again, shoulders up to the ears, squeeze, 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 hands into fists, hands relax, relax the shoulders, roll the shoulders up and back a couple times. Open and close the jaw. All those thinking muscles, can let them go now. Shake out your hands. Do a little pat down on the legs. And come to rest. Hands so gently on your knees or thighs. Relax where you can forget about them. Feet are grounded. Hips or seat is grounded into your chair or your cushion. Spine is straight and tall, giving you a feeling of alertness. Back of the neck is long, jaw is relaxed, face is relaxed. And just to get comfortable and inside your body again, go ahead and take 10 breaths, just focusing on the sensations of the breath as they flow in and out of the various parts of your body, abdomen, chest, shoulders. wherever you feel it. You can even start with a couple of deeper breaths if it feels good. So now as you sit here, relaxed in your body and safe in this room, filled with other practitioners dedicated to the same kind of stillness and goodness, call to mind either a person or a place that brings you sweet, unadulterated joy. Maybe it's the face of a small child, or your partner, or a pet, grandparent, someone who opens your heart with love and kindness. Or you can pick a place, maybe a place from your past, or somewhere that you go now that brings you a great sense of peace, a sense of balance and contentment. Take a few breaths now as you get that one particular image clear in your mind's eye. And allow that person or that place to be as real as if it were in front of you right now. Living and breathing, not just a flat picture. So see the sparkle of that person's eyes or the way that they smile. Feel their warmth. Or see the wind moving through the trees or across the wave tops. Feeling the warmth of the sun, hearing the sounds that you'd hear in that place. And as you immerse yourself in these details, feel the feelings that they elicit start to grow in your heart. So even though the visualization may be imaginary, try to feel the emotions real and grounded in your body. A sense of love, sense of happiness, or peace and contentment. You may find that deepening your breath allows you to drop into these emotions more fully as it relaxes your nervous system. Your mind wanders to other thoughts or to sounds, body sensations. Practice gently and kindly, bringing it back to this visualization and these feelings. Most likely you should have a smile on your face. Relaxing and deepening your mind into these sensations. Why would you want to go anywhere else? Smile on their face, the shimmer on the water. Check in with your mind and see if it's wandering. If so, bring it back. Focusing on those emotions of contentment or love. Gently and kindly bringing your mind back. No judgment, no reprimand. If it helps your focus, you may want to identify a color, a certain kind of light, a physical sensation with those emotions, maybe golden light in your heart, or a sense of warmth. Pour your mind into that. If you notice that your mind has wandered, gently lead it back, like leading a small child by the hand. Maybe even dropping the visual now and just focusing on the emotions. Check in with your mind. See if maybe it moved to that sound of a car. the sound of the music in the other room, or something else. Notice it, and then gently bring it back, recommitting yourself to the meditation object. Allowing your breath to be deep but relaxed, focusing on those strong, positive emotions. The way that you feel when you're with this person or in that place. Maybe your mind is moving to a part of your body that it feels needs attention. Just bring your mind back for 10 more breaths. It feels so good here. Why would you want to be anywhere else? Your mind is starting to make a plan for what to do when the meditation is over. Surely that's almost 10 breaths. What's going to happen next? Bring it back for 3 more. The sensations of those strong, positive emotions. Accustoming yourself to feel love, contentment, a sense of peace. And slowly deepening and lengthening your breath, allowing your awareness to flow out into your entire body. Keep in contact with those emotions if you can. Allowing the awareness to open up to encompass the entire room. Infusing your sense of who you are and where you are with those emotions that you just practiced with. Finding that contentment in this place. Re-energizing your body by wiggling your fingers and toes. And when you're ready, you can open your eyes. How did we do?
It really worked for me. I have great pictures of my grandson. We have some great pictures. You guys, just they're so delightful at a certain age, and just there's no like baggage with it. So you just look at it and feel this absolute joy.
I was thinking about Toby too, actually. Yeah, it's easy. It's easy. Any experiences to share? Or? Lots of big smiles. I like that.
I'm just curious, what is the difference between visualization, which to me it's sort of like how do you actually feel first, and the first part of it, I thought it was more as if you just feel totally neutral, going into a different somehow peaceful state.
That's a great question and a great observation. So the difference between visualization and the difference between essentially the first and the second meditations. So meditating on the actual sensations can be very, very helpful because it's something that happens all the time in life. So if you're aware of your breath, if you're able to find something positive in your surroundings, if you're aware of your body and the flow of your emotions, then that has the benefit of something that you can carry with you throughout your day. And there are things that present themselves to you, something kind of concrete, like sometimes we even meditate on the pain in my knee because it's there, so it's available. And it changes over time, and I have emotional reactions to it, and I have to work with those. So there's a lot of really grounding benefits to doing that first type of meditation. The second type of meditation is working more with the idea of, well, in addition to recognizing what's always around me, in what am I looking to move towards? And by putting those strong emotions and those visualizations, but essentially it's the emotions that are the important part that come from the visualization, and focusing on those which may have sensations. You may have a sense of openness in the heart or a deepening of the breath that goes with it. But you're working with the idea of neuroplasticity, that what you put in front of your mind over and over, the emotions that you accustom yourself to experiencing, are then ones that you'll be able to have access to more in the rest of your day. So they both have really strong benefits, and they're just slightly different styles of meditation.
So one's more of an intention, and the
Yeah.
one's more of an emotion, sensing.
You know, it really depends on what you bring to it as well. Because I think that with the first meditation, I tend to bring an emotional quality of practicing acceptance. Like, you know, I'm trying to run a meditation class and there's people talking in the hallway. Okay, well that's something that I need to accept, right? So for me there is an emotional intention that's there. But the actual instruction can be as simple as just watching the breath or just listening to all the sounds that are present, and trying to not let the mind fly off to something else. So it's being able to concentrate a little more, being able to be more broadly aware and narrowly focused. So it can be seen as a skill-building meditation, or it can have many deeper insights and ramifications beyond that, just depending on what happens for you in it. But the second type of meditation is intentionally trying to build or add or create something that you have identified as a quality that you want to embody more of. So for some people they may meditate on gratitude, for some people they may meditate on contentment. And with that, we're essentially forming our being around those strong emotions that we're holding. I know it's a little vague, but I'm really trying not to label one thing as one thing or another. Do you want to say anything about that? Because I think you have a slightly different experience of, I feel like you have a deeper experience of Vipassana style meditation than I do.
Just that what's commonly called the breath meditation is really what we're working with is the sensation of the breath. The sensations of the breath wherever you feel it here. So I think Claire's made that distinction before, but it's really important to note. So one of the things you're doing is bringing yourself directly into the present with just what is right now, which we never normally do. You know, our minds are normally in the past or in the future. We're very rarely ever in the present, just with what is, and being good with that. So that's the very basics of that, the sensation of the breath, not the breath going in and out, not the conceptualization of the breath, but the sensations of the breath only. just what you can feel where the breath goes in and out. So that's in practical terms, the basis of that first type of meditation. And then the second one, as Claire said, is there are many different types of it, but it can be about habituating your mind to more positive aspects and changing the way the mind reacts to things in a more conscious way, I guess you'd say. You're trying to create new pathways, neural pathways in your mind. When something happens, you want that quality of acceptance or gratitude or whatever, compassion that you've been meditating on to spring to the fore instead of something more negative or habitually negative. Actually, the sensations of the breath meditation will bring you to the same place via different means. And it's good to practice both of them, depending on when your meditation teacher says it's good to do.
And if there was, for everyone, if there was one or the other of, he's a beautiful teacher of meditation philosophy and everything like that as well. He just is not sitting exactly right here right now, but hopefully in the next class we'll have him in as a guest teacher. I totally forgot what I was going to say. I'm overwhelmed with your awesomeness. If there's one meditation or another that you each individually feel more drawn to, then you may go through a period of days, weeks, months, years in your practice where you're doing primarily one versus the other. Especially if you're under the guidance of a teacher who's saying, okay, now would be a good time to do this. Like right now we're doing more of the first type of meditation for the last 8 or 9 months. But for the 5 years before that, we were doing more of the other type of meditation. So that's just a cycle that we're going through right now. But I feel very fond of a lot of different forms of meditation, actually. I need to try more music-based meditations.
Maybe I was just thinking like when one would be better than another. Of course, teachers would know that. I don't really know, but I find like if I'm in an okay place and I'm not like anxious about something or feeling angry or whatever, then I can just, the breath helps because it's really for me more of a kind of just a way to focus. But the meditation where you put something positive in your mind, I find I need that when there's a lot of negative things going on at the moment. I'm just trying to clear those out, get those out of the way. So I don't know, that's what works for me.
Yeah, and there's another form of this more awareness meditation where one of the main objects is, what are the emotions? They may be scary, they may not be that pleasant, they may be, what we would label as negative. But that's a really important stage of practice as well, is to spend some time seeing what's there and not always trying to put love on top of everything or put, obviously you're still interacting with yourself compassionately, but there's another whole part of the meditation process which is about being able to sit with a whole range of emotions that are not necessarily picturing the face of your grandchild. So that's actually there. In future courses, there are a few sort of lightweight ones of those that I'd like to bring in a little bit. Jack Kornfield, if you're interested in that, Jack Kornfield is a master of that kind of, really knowing the self and full emotional awareness and acceptance. And so that can have a different, a different function from the idea of, I'm trying to specifically meditate on the qualities that I want to embody more of. That's a sort of like, well, what's there? Can I love even those things? So there's a lot of different things. I mean, meditation is so deep, so deep. Yes?
I have one more thing to that.
Please do.
With the breath, sensations of the breath meditation, or the breath meditation as it's commonly called, one of the things that brings you to that same place is that you're working with your attentional focus and your peripheral focus, as I think Claire was talking about.
We did a lot about that last week, for people who were here.
So one of the reasons that we have negative responses to things is because we lose the context of what's going on. We think of ourselves as loving, kind, compassionate person, and then someone says something we don't like or offends us, and all these other thoughts start rushing up in the periphery of our focus, and they start overtaking our attentional focus, which is, I'm a nice person, I love you, I may not agree with what you just said, but there's no need for me to go off at you. And we lose the context, we lose the focus of attention, we allow all the things rushing into the periphery to overtake our attentional focus. And then once that happens, all hell breaks loose.
That's where the ego is dominating.
Exactly. Yeah, that kind of, or the negative habituations of our mind.
Yeah, it's the collapse of context into single-minded instinctual reaction.
And you're being
feel happen.
Yeah, and you're being
moments.
fed by the peripheral thoughts which you're not in control of. Those are coming from the subconscious. Now, when you focus on the sensations of the breath, and you get good at that, and you get good at watching your peripheral vision, your peripheral mind, consciousness, you can see those things starting to come in before they overtake your focus of attention, which is that I love you, and there's no need for me to have a go at you because you've said something I disagree with. And so through a different process, you're training your mind to observe what's happening at any given moment in time. And to see, oh, I'm used to sitting in meditation and these thoughts coming in and me catching them and going, okay, I want those at the back and I want the attention of the meditation object to stay as my focus of attention. When it comes to crunch time and you're about to launch into an argument with someone and these thoughts of anger and aggression come in, you can also watch those start to float from the periphery. You go, hang on a sec, in meditation, that's right, I want to keep my focus on my loving feelings toward this person. There's no need to have an argument. I'm going to let those sink back into the background and just stay with what is, which is that I love this person and that's all fine. We can resolve this in a nice, kind, compassionate kind of way. So in a way, that's the mode of the breath sensation meditation, doing the same thing as the habituating your mind to positive qualities type meditations.
Awesome, thank you. I think I explained that thing in a slightly different way last week, so it was very interesting to hear you explain that in that way. That's awesome, that's great.
I have a question.
Yes.
How long does it take you to get to that point? How much practice does it take to get to that point?
I found that, and maybe Todd can share about this as well, because I know he's been meditating for a while, but I did find that there were certain benefits that came right away, like the ability to focus more and the ability to just, even if I was reacting, to be aware that I was reacting and go like, wow, here I go again, or like a little, just to start to get that little more self-knowledge, and then gradually the process. Oh, there's like a 4-part process they talk about where first you're doing it and you're not aware of it, then you're doing it but you're at least aware that you're doing it, and then you're not having that reaction anymore but you're aware that you're not having it, and then finally you're so retrained that you're not having it and you're not even aware you're not having it, you wouldn't even think of it. So there's some matrix in psychology that has to do with that. But there are benefits that come just through 10, 15 minutes a day, but it's based on a daily practice, not a lot of stopping and starting. But I would say give it a try. And I think that as you do it more, then there becomes more and more nuanced things to sort of work with. But some of those initial benefits that come in the beginning, you don't backslide from that. Like I think there's a level of sort of other focus and kind of and self-knowledge that over the years that I've gotten to that doesn't doesn't just go away if I don't meditate for a day or two or something. Just meditate every day.
And I found when I started just to be encouraging that I was grateful for the situation that you've been later in life where you have probably a home or a fairly quiet place where you're living, not some, apartment somewhere in the middle of the city or something, and you may probably don't have young children around pulling at your sleeve every minute, and you can control your environment a lot more and find the perfect place to meditate, and you have options. So that's really nice. It's like a great time to start when you're older.
Yeah, believe me, I've tried meditating in an apartment in New York City, and it's not as easy as doing it in Connecticut. So, yeah.
It is, it's a personal level. How much do you really want that state? Like how much positive energy is that state? The more positive energy, the more desire you have for that, the quicker you're going to walk around it.
Jeff, did you want to share anything about that? That's that you've experienced? Or?
Just a very fascinating difference between what I've experienced in meditating one way, which is meditating today with 2 other practice skills. I found it enriching to not have to have the focus of one aspect, music, for instance, but also something to share in the experience on the other side. For shamanic meditation, we did a meditation journey where we tried to peel back the layers of consciousness to the divine spark itself, the acceptance of yourself to yourself and others to yourself. So it was really, that was powerful, but it was very empowering. And, this was a wonderful new look at meditating.
So we should probably wrap up because we've gone a bit over, but I wanted to extend the same offer as last week to, if people want me to email them just a little bullet point transcription of the meditation so that you can take it to your cushion, and also some audio. I tried many times to upload the full class audio from last week and it just kept failing. So, so I didn't get the full class sent out, but I sent out a little 15-minute guided meditation, which I can do again for this week. But I just need to know if everyone has filled out, everyone needs to fill out the form at the front desk if they've left their email, and if you want me to email you, I wouldn't contact you without your permission. Yes? 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 Okay, good. And then you'll have something to practice with. And Todd leads a guided meditation every Monday evening, which is free. And so if you want to just come and be part of a group of people who are meditating together, I would definitely recommend that. Here, yep.
So this one at 5:30, so this is your practice.
Yeah, you stay for yoga. And I would love to be able to offer some more of these classes when I come back. I'm going to be traveling for the next 2 months. So we'll get in touch with you guys, and if you want to come back, and we can do more. Yes. Yes.